Have you ever stood in front of this massive, gorgeous glass aquarium, or maybe a towering utility water storage tank, and just thought, oh yeah, I want that one, before you even bothered to measure your floor? Well, if that sounds like you, this explainer is exactly what you need. Today, we're extracting the absolute essential insights from the experts at Saltwater Reef Co. to give you a definitive, step-by-step framework for your next installation. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to run through 1. Beyond bigger is better. 2. Assessing your actual space. 3. Defining purpose and capacity. 4. Stability versus maintenance. 5. Budgeting the true cost. And finally, 6. Planning for growth.
Let's dive right in and tackle the biggest elephant in the room. Section 1, Beyond Bigger is Better.
There is this massive myth in the tank hobby that going as large as possible is just the ultimate goal for every single setup. I mean, human nature kind of tells us that a larger volume automatically equals a better experience, right? But the reality of ownership actually completely flips that assumption on its head. As the experts point out, it is way less about chasing some bigger is better rule, and a whole lot more about matching your room layout, your daily routine, and the very real practicalities of upkeep. It's all about harmony. Whether you're putting a totally utilitarian water container down in the basement or setting up this gorgeous, thriving coral reef display smack in the middle of your living room, long-term success comes down to balance. If a tank awkwardly dominates your room, blocks a main walkway, or demands literally all of your free time, that prized asset is going to shift into a really heavy burden really fast. We're looking for that perfect sweet spot between your grandest ambitions and what your actual day-to-day lifestyle can support. So let's talk about the physical reality of your room. Section 2, assessing your actual space. Go ahead and grab your tape measure, but please do not just measure the floor. I see this mistake all the time. You absolutely have to account for the physical footprint of the tank itself, plus the extra space required for ventilation, cleaning, and routine tasks. Just because the tank technically fits flush between your sofa and the wall on a piece of paper doesn't mean it actually fits in reality. You're going to need room to operate safely without completely destroying your walls, your floors, or your expensive new equipment. To avoid a total logistical nightmare, you need to visualize what we call the invisible box. I want you to imagine a strict, unblocked clearance space wrapping completely around your entire tank. A setup that slides perfectly into a tight alcove might look great today, but it becomes a total disaster the very first time you need to reach around the back to fix a stubborn, leaking PVC fitting or swap out a hose. If you don't plan ahead for your hands and tools to maneuver back there, you are setting yourself up for an incredibly frustrating and messy experience. Now that we've got the physical constraints sorted out, we can define what this tank is actually going to do. Section 3, defining purpose and capacity. Your capacity needs are going to vary wildly based on your primary goal. For instance, if you're setting up water storage, your numbers are strictly a math game, driven by household usage data, emergency backup needs, and those critical peak demand periods. But if you're setting up an aquarium, biology takes the wheel entirely. Are you doing a standard freshwater setup or a complex saltwater reef? What specific fish or corals do you want? You have to define the ecosystem first and then let that specific biology dictate the volume of water you need to actually sustain it. Which leads us to a pretty fascinating paradox. Section 4, stability versus maintenance. It sounds completely counterintuitive, I know, but smaller tanks are actually often way harder to maintain. Because there's significantly less water volume in there, they warm up, cool down, and change chemistry incredibly fast. Even a slight shift in the temperature of the room has this immediate, concentrated impact inside a small tank, which demands your constant monitoring. Larger tanks, on the other hand, offer this massive natural buffer. All that extra water volume dilutes the fluctuations, giving you incredible chemical stability. But of course, the trade-off is a much larger equipment footprint and a significantly higher upfront cost. And speaking of that equipment footprint, regardless of the tank size you go with, your pumps, filtration, heating, and aeration must match the volume perfectly. It is such a common trap to think, oh, I'll just buy the absolute strongest pump on the market for my small tank to keep it super clean. But throwing oversized equipment at a tank doesn't work like that. It just creates erratic, uneven performance, it stresses out the system, whips up excessive current, and frankly burns a completely unnecessary hole in your wallet. Everything has to be scaled in proportion. Well, since we're on the topic of burning a hole in your wallet, let's talk about the financial reality. Section 5, budgeting the true cost. Look, the price tag on that glass or plastic container, that is literally just the starting line. A larger tank comes with significant hidden end-to-end costs that you absolutely have to account for. You're looking at heavier-duty insulation materials and these robust stands that won't warp under immense weight. You're going to need more complex plumbing fittings and probably upgraded electrical panels to run those larger pumps safely. In extreme cases, you might even need structural floor strengthening in your home just to safely hold the massive weight of the water. You really have to budget for the entire ecosystem, not just the box itself. Finally, let's look a bit further down the road. Section 6. Planning for growth. You definitely don't want to back yourself into a tight corner here. It's always best to design your setup with just a little bit of wiggle room so that if your passion or your household needs grow over the next few years, you're totally prepared. Whether that means leaving space in the tank to add more intricate coral aquascaping, increasing your utility storage capacity later on, or just leaving enough clearance in your invisible box for future equipment upgrades. Planning for growth ensures you aren't forced to rip out and replace your entire setup prematurely. So before you go and swipe that credit card for the biggest tank you can possibly squeeze through your front door, take a step back. Ask yourself, does this setup actually fit my life? Does it meet my specific capacity needs and realistically align with the amount of time and budget I can dedicate to it every day? A well-planned tank brings endless fascination and utility to your space. A poorly planned one brings endless stress and messy weekends. Ultimately, you're the one who has to decide. Is this new tank going to be a source of daily joy or a daily chore you quickly come to resent?